I remember the moment like it had been carved into my skin forever. The laughter of her friends, the clinking of glasses, the soft hum of music. It all became a backdrop to her voice, sharp and cold. "You're useless," she shouted, and I froze, every word a jagged stone in my chest. My face burned as heads turned, eyes widening in a mix of shock and pity. I wanted to vanish, to sink into the floor, but my legs refused to move. She smiled, triumphant, as though she had proven some cruel point I didn't even know existed. The night didn't end when the last guest left. Her laughter echoed in the empty apartment, and I felt the weight of humiliation pressing down on me. I had always prided myself on being patient, forgiving, the rock she leaned on. But that night everything cracked. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of whiskey, the amber liquid burning my throat like fire and clarity combined. Something had to change. The next days were a blur of quiet plotting and careful observation. I watched her move through our home with careless arrogance, oblivious to the storm brewing in me. I discovered the little things she took for granted. Her phone tucked under a pillow, texts deleted too quickly, her sudden, unexplained smiles while staring at the screen. Denial tried to whisper that I was imagining things, but deep down I knew. I knew she had secrets. I knew she had someone else. It wasn't immediate. I didn't confront her, didn't accuse. I learned to wait, to study, to plan. And then one evening while she was out with her friends, I invited mine. Quiet, deliberate invitations. People who knew the truth, who would understand without needing explanations. The apartment, usually her kingdom, began to feel foreign to her. Candles flickered, the scent of her favorite dessert filled the air. But this time it was for my guests, not for her. When she returned, the moment was electric. Her exclamation at seeing everyone there faltered as she took in the expressions of my friends. All knowing, all silent. I didn't rush to speak. I let the tension curl around the room like smoke. And then I served the cake. The centerpiece of her pride and the absurd centerpiece of my revenge. "Happy birthday," I said, my voice steady, almost sweet. I thought we'd celebrate properly this time. Her confusion was deliciously palpable. She moved closer, inspecting the gathering, trying to regain control, but the control had already shifted. Then, as she reached for the cake, one of my friends casually mentioned a story from work, a story she shouldn't have known. The subtle implication was enough. Her lips parted, her confident facade crumbling. I watched her carefully, like a predator measuring its prey. "You invited him too?" she asked, eyes flicking nervously. "I mean, not that it matters." The trailing voice, the attempt at casual dismissal, was a flounder in a net she didn't know existed. Smiled. "Not just him," I said. "Everyone you didn't think I noticed." The room held its breath, and I could feel her unraveling in real time. Her eyes darted around, searching for an ally in the faces of my friends, but all they did was nod silently, a quiet acknowledgement of what she had done, what she had become. It wasn't about yelling or humiliation like she had inflicted on me. It was about exposure, about letting her see the world she had tried to manipulate, the perception she had assumed she controlled, crumble piece by piece. The cake, the laughter, the normalcy of the room, it all turned against her as I calmly recounted a few little stories of her arrogance, her secrets, her betrayals. Each word precise, calculated like a scalpel removing the rot. Her face changed from confusion to panic, the bravado I had always despised slipping into raw, human fear. She tried to interrupt, to laugh it off, to charm the room, but it was too late. The narrative had shifted. I had shifted it. And when the last slice of cake was served, when the room had absorbed the truth of her actions, I walked to the doorway and waited. "You can go," I said softly, a statement not of anger but of finality. "This isn't your house anymore, not today." Her knees wobbled, her proud posture faltering, and for the first time in years she saw me, not as the forgiving partner, not as the man she could belittle, but as someone fully aware, fully present, and fully in control. I didn't shout, didn't scream, didn't need to. The echo of her own voice from that first night, the humiliation she had wielded like a weapon, was now mirrored in her wide eyes and trembling hands. She left with a forced grace, slipping into the night that once belonged to her confidence. My friends lingered, some shaking their heads in disbelief, some clapping quietly, but all understanding the gravity of what had occurred. Alone in the aftermath, I sat in the quiet apartment, the candlelight flickering gently. No revenge had been sweeter than the calm justice of exposure. No victory had felt more complete than watching her realize, fully and completely, that the power she thought she had over me had been an illusion. And as the last echoes of the night faded, I realized something even more important. I had reclaimed myself, my dignity, and my silence had become louder than her insults ever could.